Welcome to Prince Jordan House. Exercise number 83 and 84. Sir Kailash Chandra. 140 words a minute. Be ready? Start. Sir, we in Parliament are being asked to endorse the proclamation. At the same time, we have not been finished with the report which the governor had sent to the president. Now, how can we give our verdict on a matter of such importance until and unless all the material facts warranting the proclamation under Article 356 of the Constitution are placed before us? Yesterday, the Honorable the Home Minister said that this report contained only certain facts and figures with regard to the party positions in the dissolved Andhra Assembly. In that case, what is the object of placing that report before us? It would not give us anything particularly new except certain arrangement of figures made by the Governor of Andhra with a view to advising the President as to the course he should take. We submit that this report contains something else. It was the duty of the government to place the center entire report before us for the closest possible scrutiny and the most meticulous examination by members of this house and of the other house, because this report lies at the bottom of the whole thing as far as the constitutionality of the action of the president is concerned. Therefore, I submit that a fight of the executive is sought to be endorsed by parliament without telling us the grounds on which that fight had been exercised constitutionally. This is improper. Then, sir, the president also says that he had considered other information received by him. We have not been told yet as to what was this other information. Neither have we been told about the source of such information. I do not know exactly on what basis the president applied his mind to the subject. We know that we cannot make any reflection on the president. He is a very wise man and wiser still by virtue of the occupation of the presidency, but I think we can call in question whether his mind had been rightly applied in a matter of such great importance and national concern. Our contention is that the president has not been in a position to apply his mind fairly and squarely to this subject, because the report which had been submitted to him had been perverse, distorted, and false. Our contention also is that the other reports which had been submitted to him are not fully objective and truthful. This we are in a position to say all the more because if the case for the government was so foolproof, Dr. Katju would have been the last person to withhold his report from us. I think that something is wrong in the report, and maybe the members of this house, having looked at the reports, would have discovered certain facts which do not go to justify the case that the government has sought to make out in support of the proclamation. Apprehending such a possibility, I think Dr. Katju had thought it wise to withhold this report from the House. Having done it, he asked us to endorse almost blindfold measure which is described as undemocratic even by certain members of the Congress party. Many constitutional points have been touched. It has been sought to be made out in the House that this is the best democratic step that the government could take. We say this is not at all a democratic step which has been taken. We are supposed to have a parliamentary system. We must have our own conventions. We have got our own constitution, but we are told time and again in this house and in the other house that there are the British constitution and their parliamentary practice which one should imitate. Now imagine a situation of this sort in England. Would the crown have taken such a measure at all if a certain party had been voted out of office by the opposition. I think in a comparable situation there, the uh, king would have inevitably called the leader of the opposition to explore the possibilities of forming a government. Without doing it, he would have never taken recourse to extraordinary measure like this. If this method had been resorted to in the United Kingdom, a serious constitutional crisis affecting not merely the internal politics of the parliament but the politics life outside would have ensued. In France, for instance, there are many parties. No party by itself enjoys an absolute or a comfortable majority. What happens there? Ministry is formed, and there we find the president takes upon himself the responsibility of exploring ways and means of finding whether any particular party or any leader of any party is in a position to present a government which would command the confidence of a certain majority in the chamber of deputies. Without resorting so that objective test, he does not take recourse to extraordinary measures. In the present case, I say this objective test has not been at all applied. One may or may not have certain feelings. Next para. I am glad that the government is thinking in terms of the small growers. By all means, give them representation, but let not an attempt be made as though the bigger growers are not looking after the interest of the small growers, because that is far from the truth. If the coffee board has achieved one grand result, it is to rehabilitate the help small growers. So far as the question of payment from the pool is concerned, the small grower gets the full amount due according to the costing the moment he delivers the coffee. There is a separate method of costing and the whole amount is paid immediately, whereas in the case of the bigger growers it is not so. Payments are made as and when coffee is sold in the market and abroad. Supposing this aid was not there for the small grower, what would have happened? He would have had to make distress sales. He would have had to take whatever the market was able to offer, and he would not have had the benefit of export prices which rule as much as 100% over and above the home prices. The price of coffee abroad is twice as much as it is in India. The small grower would not have had the ghost of a chance of getting higher prices by the sale of coffee to foreign countries. Not only that, he also gets his basic price immediately on delivery of the coffee to the pool. Over and above all this, he gets the benefit of all the scientific research which he would not have otherwise got. He gets all the aid from the bigger growers because, as my honorable friend said yesterday, it is to the advantage of the bigger planters to help the smaller ones. There is a disease which is communicable and which can destroy the neighboring estates. So in these multifarious ways, the small growers are today helped, and they are immensely thankful to the bigger growers and to the coffee board. Now a special plea is sought to be entered on behalf of the small growers. What I say is that we can have representation for small growers on the board. That is perfectly right, but let there be no suggestion whatever to the effect that the cause of the small growers was neglected. This is not correct. As regards financial aid, that is a state problem, that is a union problem, and that is a problem for the whole of the country in respect of all developmental activities. One thing I must say, and that is that there are obvious limitations for the small growers. The acreage is limited and they cannot spread beyond that. They have got their paddy fields and their plantain gardens, and so due to limitations they cannot spread over. Any development of coffee means a large acreage, and that is not available to small growers. Even if they have got the capacity, it is very difficult for them to find forest lands nearby. It is only easily possible for any man to go over 50 miles, and they take up a jungle, so the small growers have their own limitations. I am not going into that, but what I do say is that this idea introduced for the first time here in the parliament, that the interests of the small growers have got to be specially protected, is I submit a policy which will create a difference between the bigger growers and the small grower. I submit that there is no reason whatsoever to distrust the plantation industry and deny them the right to select their own representatives and to introduce the word nomination here. Why should we have nomination? If there is need for separate representation for the small growers, why should we not reserve a seat in each place for the small grower? That is the easiest and the best way to give representation to the small growers. This can easily be done, and therefore I submit that the words "or nominated" may kindly be deleted from the bill. I do not know whether the procedure would permit of it because there are certain difficulties, but in any case, if at least we get an assurance from my friend that these 12 are going to be elected, it would be something gained for a poor like me and for the industry. After the question of constitution of the board comes the question about the chairman. On that question, I hope, sir, that the house will kindly appreciate that for more than one reason it would not be the best arrangement to have a whole-time appointed chairman. There are two suggestions in this connection. My honorable friend's suggestion is that it must be an elected office, as hitherto he has also said that out of the 13 years, only for 1.5 years has there been a planter as chairman. Otherwise, the post was always held by an officer. Stop.